for Star City, called the Magic Carpet. That's what he calls his deck. But Ben's Esper deck, a lot more traditional, a lot of spells, Augur of Bola, Snapcaster Mage, Restoration Angel, one main deck Jace. So I mean, you see all the spells here. This is what Ben top-aided with last week in the Invitational, and he's very comfortable with this deck. Do you think one deck, is there a favorite here, you know, as far as Rug Flash versus Esper? They're both trying to basically play this game of neither of us are going to tap on our own turn, going to force some action on each other's end steps and try to force something through. Well, one deck has Sphinx of Revelation, the other doesn't.
Well, it seems like for Connor's deck, he has a couple cards that really just don't do anything in this matchup because they're good against creature-based strategies. Like Nightshade Peddler, Is It Staticaster? They're almost dead in this matchup. I mean, together, sure, they can kill one of the two Restoration Angels or pick off an Augur of Bolas, but that's not really going to have an impact on the game. I mean, killing Restoration Angel, sure, but I think that Cavern of Souls, if it's drawn, is going to be really powerful, being able to force through end of turn Yevas.
Okay.
Ben only has a couple Devour Flesh and ultimate price to kill it, and then Azorius Charming it to get it and, you know, cast at the end of the next turn. Isn't that great? And he can't trade Restoration Angel for it without another creature.
Yep.
So I think that could be a problem. I think the Cavern of Souls will be, if it's drawn, will be really important for Connor for that reason. Connor has actually a decent amount of anti-revelation cards between, he has, like you said, 3 Rewind, 1 Dissipate, 2 Izzet Charms, which virtually always counter Revelation, and Syncopate, which also virtually always counter Revelation. Unless Ben's trying to leave up mana to fight a counter over the Revelation, which is inherently difficult because if you're leaving 3 mana up, you're revelating for less anyway.
Sure. Yeah, and you want those Revelations to be huge at all times. As you are going to see, Ben cast an Augur of Bolas. He's going to get an Azorius Charm off for that. We're going to start the back and forth here, and what's going to be probably a pretty long, drawn-out match, as Connor does have a Breeding Pool. He's going to follow up with a Stomping Ground and just pass the turn back. So for Ben, he just wants to draw as many cards as possible, start cycling through his deck, as Augur of Bolas is going to get a little feisty here to start. We're probably not going to see that happen very often, as Ben's going to play a Godless Shrine here, untapped, going to push himself down to 18 and just pass the turn back. He does just want to, again, hit his land drops, cycle some cards in the beginning. You see he has drawn his 1 copy of Jace Memory Depth as well.
So that's pretty interesting there. Ben plays a land untapped, 2 life. He pays 2 life. We saw his hand. He doesn't have anything for 3 mana, but he doesn't want to make it obvious he doesn't have Dissipate in his hand. The 2 life to him is worth bluffing a Dissipate at this point in the game.
And so he's going to cycle an Azorius Charm on Connor's end step, draw a card, which is Devour Flesh, draw into Supreme Verdict, and there's an Nephalia Drawn Yard. So he does have his 4th land. The problem right now is he doesn't have a 5th one, as we're going to see Augur Bolas come across here and get eaten. Nope, just as Izzet Staticaster. Okay. Thought he might have a Wolf Revenge in there, but just an Izzet Staticaster right now. You see Ben considering the Devour Flesh in his hand if he wants to cast that, maybe a Demir Charm or something else here in his hand that he can cast, but it looks like he's probably okay if he's just bouncing off each other.
Yeah, I'm guessing that due to the fact he has the Wrath in his hand, he's not going to care. He's going to let him put a couple creatures in play, try to get the max value off the Supreme Verdict. He definitely wants to continue the bluff of the Dissipate because he doesn't really have a lot to deal with the massive threat right now, and he definitely wants to cycle that Azorius Charm at the end of turn because he needs to hit his land drop.
Yeah, Azorius Charm, a card that's going to have some utility in this matchup, but mostly going to be cycled more often than not, as you're going to see him cycle this again here. See what Ben's able to draw into. Does he find land number 5? He finds a Think Twice, so he can get a little deeper into his deck.
Think Twice. I was talking to Ben today, and he said Think Twice is the best card in his deck.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. If Think Twice is the best card in your deck, I don't know if that's good or bad.
Obviously, I don't think he meant it in terms of sheer power level.
Sure.
And I think it's like when you draw your opening hand, Think Twice is the card you always want to have because it smooths out your draws better than any other card.
Yep. It's kind of the glue that keeps it all together. It's surprising to see where, with Esper Control, you find 4 copies of that card in almost all of the Esper Control deck list. In Blue, White, Red, Flash, for example, you only see maybe 1, maybe 2 of those. You see a lot more Thought Scourers, though it is a lot more Snapcaster based than this deck is.
Right.
And so now Ben says, in your face, how about a Jace Memory Adapt right now? Do you have a counterspell? Connor does, and it's going to be an Izzet Charm, the Spell Pierce mode. So Ben has only 1 Jace Memory Adept, and it is now gone. So Ben's going to have to work a lot harder to win this game with now Nephalia Drawn Yards. Certainly can see Ben going for it there. You look at Connor's mana base. He has the 1 Breeding Pool, 2 red-green lands, and a Casted Wolf Run. You know, how much counter match are you actually going to play around that situation?
I mean, there's only 2 cards, right? There's only 2 cards that people actually play. There's Izzet Charm, which isn't even very common, and Syncopate, which, I mean, Ben might not be even sure what he was really up against.
Yeah. Doesn't really have a great idea of what deck he's playing against right now. Huey and I have the benefit of working with perfect information here, both players' hands, both players' deck list. He doesn't know that he's against Rook Flash because it's not really a commonly played deck unless you're playing against specifically Jeff Hooglin and his white scarf. So he's not up against him right now. As you are going to see Staticaster take out that Augur Bolus. Ben does play a land and just pass the turn back. So let's see what Connor's able to put together here. You see a Prime Speaker Zagana in his hand. The problem here for him is that you just see that he's still stuck on those 4 lands, and he's having a little bit of difficulty not being able to cast any spells. He doesn't have double blue for the 3 rewinds that might be in his deck.
Unclear to me why he wouldn't attack there with... I guess he just doesn't want to get Azorius Charmed. That makes sense.
Yeah.
At first I thought maybe he was playing around Restoration Angel, which didn't make sense to me initially because of the death-touching pinger, but I guess he just... Being that he hasn't hit land drops, he just doesn't want to get stuck drawing that guy for another turn.
So now we're going to see Connor tap 3 mana. It's going to be a Wolfir Avenger on Ben's end step. Let's see how much Ben cares about this, if he does at all. You see Ben does have a Sphinx's Revelation in his hand right now too. He might want to pull the trigger on that. It would be for 3 with the shields down. There's no reason to play around on a main deck Dispel.
He's going to ultimate price the Avenger. I think that's okay. When he untaps with the Avenger out, it's really hard to deal with. You have to end up putting it on top because Supreme Verdict doesn't kill it when it can just regenerate.
And Ben, without having any Terminus in his deck, and he's already cycled through 2 Azorius Charms, it would be probably problematic at that point. More of an annoyance than anything,
sure.
But you don't want to have to deal with that at this stage in the game. When he's trying to get set up, trying to keep hitting his land drops, and trying to resolve a big Revelation, as you do see a rewind in Connor's hand. And he's going to play a land here. The question, obviously, is it blue or not?
And is it going to be untapped or not?
And it's a Cavern of Souls. Ooh. So we'll get confirmation on what that's going to be naming in just a second from our table spotter, but the most important thing here is that it's just not a blue land for those rewinds and dissipates in Connor's deck.
Yeah, but given that it's not a blue land, it's a pretty good one.
Yeah, I think the best land that he can draw that's not a blue one, as here, this time does come the Nightshade Peddler.
Yeah. So now that he drew his 5th land, he's fine with getting it Azorius Charmed or even pinging it in response to not draw it again.
So we see in Connor's hand he does have that rewind that he can't cast. He does have a Yeva in his hand, and we're going to see Ben activate, I believe, the Nephalia Drown Yard here, maybe? And see if Connor's going to respond or not. It is going to be a Drown Yard. Searing Spear, Hinterland Harbor, and Steam Vents go to the graveyard. So Ben's going to start to get to work on Connor's library as his Jace Memory Depth is gone. Ben does draw a Watery Grave to go along with that Supreme Verdict in his hand. You can kind of see the gears turning for Ben right now, trying to figure out what he's up against. You know, because with this combo, there's a pretty wide range of decks he can be up against here. So if you're Ben, what are you probably thinking about the cards he needs to play around here?
I think right there, Ben was just deciding whether or not he wants to put that Watery Grave in untapped, which, given that he has the Sphinx's Revelation, is a reasonably close decision. He is going to cast it, it looks like, for 4.
Yeah. So Ben's going to make his move here with the shields down for Connor, as he does cast a Yeva through, I believe, that Cavern of Souls. Ben is going to take the opportunity to resolve a Sphinx's Revelation for 4, draw 4 cards, get 4 more left to move to 21. His shields are currently down, but what's the worst that can happen is the question.
So Ben goes to 21. I think I saw, and I could be wrong, but I think I saw the Silverheart in Connor's hand.
And that could be a little bit dangerous.
Yep.
That would be a huge punch to the face that Lundquist would have to take if that is the case. So you see Ben's going to have to discard here. We're going to bring Yeva up on the screen for you guys really quick. See what that 4/4 flash from M13 does do. Allows Connor to flash in green creatures as well with it. Pretty large threat. You see 4 copies of this here. And it's kind of strange to see 4 copies of a legendary creature. That's pretty difficult to kill, but it does draw a lot of attention. And it is something that does need to die. And so here come the Peddler and the Yeva. Those guys are going to come across here. I think you can say, Huey, that Ben is kind of establishing, he's doing what he wants to do, which is he's hitting his land drop, he's resolving big revelations. His life total's under a little bit of duress here, but, you know, I think he's doing okay.
It's not even. He's at 16.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I mean, Connor without 2 blue here, and Ben having the Supreme Verdict to get another 3 for 1, I think it's going to be tough for Connor to come back.
And so now there's a Supreme Verdict here from Ben, looking to 3 for 1 Connor.
Looks Cynic Charm.
We're going to see the unsummon mode on Simic Charm, targeting Yeva is what it looks like. So Ben wants to make sure that's what's going on. That's going to happen. Supreme Verdict still perfectly fine here. Not great, but still fine.
Yeah, now we'll be able to use the Ben will be able to use the Devour Flesh for max value, getting a Yeva at the end of turn, presumably when Connor casts it again.
Never seen Devour Flesh be so good. I think that's the best one.
Yep.
So we're going to see a Steam Vents off the top here for Connor. So finally double blue for the Rug Flash deck. Part of the problem with this deck, and we saw a little bit earlier when Jeff was in a feature match, actually the only match that he's lost this weekend, he lost to a green-red aggro deck. You know, the Rug Flash deck is a little bit tricky with what it can do, and if the opponent isn't informed on what the deck can do, they will run into those Yevas, they'll run into those Wolfir Avengers, maybe some of the counter magic that they're not expecting. It feels like to me, with the way Ben's been playing, especially that Revelation turn, that he's kind of informed on what the Rug Flash deck's trying to do.
Yeah, he probably knows. But I agree, this deck is not really on the radar, the Rug Flash deck. I wouldn't have known, if I didn't have a deck list in front of me, I wouldn't have known all the cards to play around here.
So let's see what Ben's up to on this turn. Does have a lot of lands, does have at least one Drown Yard out there as well, so his Esper deck's doing what it's supposed to do. Hit those land drops, gain some life, draw some cards, start working on the library.
I think that was an untapped Watery Grave he just played?
I think that is the case, yeah.
Okay.
So now we're going to see, here's Yeva. I think Ben's going to say, here's Devour Flesh.
Yeah. Question is he also going to follow it up with the Revelation?
Yeah.
It's a bit tricky because Ben knows his opponent has Izzet Charms in his deck.
Yep.
So he can leave 2 up, but then you're only getting 3. He can wait. There's no real pressure on him.
It looks like he's going to decide to wait as Connor's going to draw Steam Vents here. I think Ben realized that he's not taking any damage right now. He's not under any pressure. He can certainly take them time, pick his spots a little bit better.
I think what he also might consider doing is just end of turn casting his Revelation for the maximum, being that he has a Snapcaster Mage in his hand and even another Revelation in the graveyard.
Okay.
And just try to draw, use attrition, just card for counter, and then get a Revelation off, and the game's probably over.
Okay. You see Jeff is going to play land untapped again, another Steam Vents here. You see that rewind in his hand. He also does have a Huntmaster of the Fells. Looks like he's going to go for a main phase Huntmaster here. Yes, he is. So let's see how much Ben cares about that. And Ben says, that's perfectly fine. You can gain 2, put a Wolf token into play. I don't mind.
He also has the Dimir Charm still that can take out the Huntmaster itself.
And so now you're going to see a Drown Yard activation. 2 of them from Ben. All right, so he's going to start getting to work on the library. Kind of stinks for Ben that he doesn't have that Jace Memory Depth anymore. He ran it out there a little bit earlier. You see him draw an Azorius Charm. He got countered, so he has to go, for lack of a better term, the hard way home to clean the game up, which is one of the 4 Drown Yards. And now we're going to start the turn with an Augur of Bolas. Typically here, I know you're not in the booth very often, but normally this puts 3 cards straight to the bottom.
That's what it does, right? Look at the bottom 3 cards of your library.
Yes, that's
1-3. Yeah.
Ben running pretty good. Actually, 3 spells. I haven't seen that in a very long time. In Syncopate, Think Twice, and Devour Flesh. So actually options for that card for once.
And he opts to take the Syncopate, which makes sense. He's outlanding Connor, big, and it's a bit tricky with the Cavern and the Yeva is coming, but he just wants to protect his hand, protect his board, protect the situation. He knows he can deal with both things in play with the cards he already has. He has the Revelation and the Snapcaster.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Syncopate, as odd as it is, because Connor does have 7 lands, it's still going to be on right now. So I think that's why he takes it.
And it's also, Syncopate is a little bit worse of a card when your opponent knows you have it.
Sure.
Every counter is slightly worse when your opponent knows you have it, right? Like
sure.
Dissipate, Syncopate, Counterspell, Mana Drain, whatever. But with Syncopate, it's particularly worse because they can actually put themselves in a situation where it doesn't do anything.
Yep. On the alternative route, however, though, if your opponent does know that you do have a Syncopate, it forces the way they're going to play a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Maybe they start to overthink a little bit.
And play really awkwardly. Yeah, that's definitely possible.
All right, so then, what are we going to do here, Mr. Lundquist? Because he does block the Huntmaster. You're going to see a Drown Yard activation. Snapcaster among them. Looks like another Drown Yard activation here, too. Wolfir, Yeva, Snapcaster. Okay. So, you just see the block. Huntmaster looks like it's going to flip here, maybe? Yeah, Ben's saying this flips. Yeah, because of no spell. Good guy Ben.
Yeah.
You see that?
I saw it.
Straight up. Because they're all going to die anyway. So you're going to come across here for 1. Knock Connor down to 20. And Verdict is going to clean up the Huntmaster and the Wolf token.
I'm a little surprised that Ben played it this way, rather than just Dimir charming the Huntmaster.
With the flip on the stack?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just dealing with the Wolf rather than using the Wrath there, especially given that he knows Connor has a Yeva, right? It got Simic charmed?
Yeah, no, I think that Yeva might be gone now.
Did it get Devour Fleshed?
Yeah, that's the Yeva
yeah,
got fleshed,
right.
yeah. And so now we're going to see another activation here, Sulfur Falls and 2 mystery cards for the Drown Yard. And so he's past the point in the game where he has to care about the Yeva. There are likely to be more Yevas coming. I think Ben knows that.
Sure.
As he does draw another Sphinx's Revelation here. But I'm a little bit surprised too, where he does have a clean answer for a Huntmaster of the Fells and decides to use that Supreme Verdict. It feels like the Supreme Verdict can do a little bit better, as you see a Yeva right now.
Yeah,
so.
that's sort of what I think too. I mean, he has the Azorius Charm for the Wolf if it gets Wolf Run. He had the Dimir Charm for the Huntmaster. None of those cards are particularly powerful right now. I mean, sure, he can Azorius Charm Yeva, but you know, I guess whatever. Nothing really does anything when you have Azorius Charm Drown Yard.
Yeah, it's a unique removal spell.
Yeah.
And so now you're going to see Azorius Charm. Looks like it's going to put Yeva up top. We'll see if Connor's going to use that rewind here. He's been looking for a good spot for a while for it now, and Ben won't ever allow him to actually do anything good with it. So now you see Connor rearranging his mana a little bit here. Yep, so there's your rewind off of those 4 lands. See if Ben fights for the Syncopate or not. It's kind of interesting because now Ben's in this spot, and this is a spot that a lot of Esper players get in, Huey, where they have all these options, and so it's very easy to just want to pull the trigger on these options very quickly. Like, you could certainly make an argument for, all right, like, let's Syncopate that, and then that thing goes on top of that Drown Yard, but maybe you can find your Syncopate getting a better spot. You know, so, you know, how do you want to allocate your resources once you finally do have them all?
That's sort of the control quandary.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we were talking a minute ago about Dimir Charm, Azorius Charm, holding Wraths, leaving the Augur out to block, force your opponent to use the Wolf Run to get damage through, and that's sort of how it is. All the decisions are razor thin as opposed to the beatdown matchups, where you oftentimes just play all your guys real fast, attack as fast as you can. You make a few combat decisions, and you know, and in the control matchups, you get 100 decisions with really small gains and losses. Oftentimes, obviously, you still have huge decisions.
Of course.
And then in the beatdown matchups, you have really small decisions with huge gains.
Yep. We take a look there. When Ben did Nathalia Drown Yard Connor flashed back to think twice, so he was able to actually draw the Yeva that was put back on top via Azorius Charm. So he does still have that Yeva in his hand, but Ben, as you did see him count Connor's library there for a moment, really trying to just finish things off here. You're going to see him tap a bunch of mana. Looks like he might main phase a Revelation here. Doesn't want to run into a rewind now that he knows that it exists. Knows that he can't counter Yeva that's going to be coming in a turn or 2. So there's your Revelation. That one's going to be for 4. So 4 more cards for Ben to push himself up to 14. Oblivion Ring, Snapcaster Mage, Hallowed Fountain, and Glacial Fortress, are the cards drawn. You see him considering putting a Hallowed Fountain in play tap, but he's just going to play Glacial Fortress. He's got 7, and he's going to pass the turn back. Pretty good feeling if you're playing that.
Yeah.
Resolve a Rev. My life total's pretty good. Got some Drown Yards. Not my kind of Magic personally, but I know it appeals to Ben.
Yeah, there's no Karn.
there is no Karn liberated, no. No Karn or no small white creatures. Just not for me. And so now we're going to see another Drown Yard activation here. 3 more cards. Huntmaster of the Fells, Think Twice, and Stomping Ground get turned over there for Connor. Ben draws a card, which is a Restoration Angel. Plays that Hallowed Fountain tapped. I think he's more than happy to just send it back.
The library's got to be getting pretty small.
Yeah. For Connor, it's starting to get a little small here. You do see that Yeva. Something that Ben can not counter, but he certainly can Snapcaster Mage and Devour Flesh.
Yes, he can.
Yeah. It's like a counter spell. He's also got that alternate price down there too, but Devour Flesh sounds good for him. He's not trying to kill Connor via damage anyway.
No.
I know you said you played Esper last weekend. You ever kill anyone with damage?
No, I did not.
I didn't think so.
Well, that's not true. After sideboard, sometimes what happens is versus, I don't know if Ben has it, but against the red decks, with all haste creatures, I boarded in blind obedience.
Okay.
I think it's great, and you end up just like casting 20 spells and killing them that way. You're playing real reactive, and all of a sudden they've taken 4 from their lands. You cast your 12th spell with Extort, they're at 4, and they're like, uh-oh.
That's the worst way to go.
Yeah. So that happened, but I certainly never attacked for lethal damage.
So we saw in response to that Devour Flesh, Connor cast a Snapcaster Mage to jump in front for the flesh. Ben said that's fine. Snapcaster Mage, ultimate price that Yeva, and now I have 2 Snapcasters in play. So he's still doing just fine, as you're going to see his defense coming to play untapped there for Birdsall. Seems like a very, very difficult matchup for him. If this is how the games play out, this is not an enviable position for Connor at all.
Well, Connor sort of got handicapped when he didn't have a second blue mana in the early game, and Ben sort of had free reign with the first Revelations. So I think this game would have played out very differently had Connor had that blue a little sooner.
Okay. We're going to see a Drowned Yard Mill here, syncopate among the 3 cards that are turned over. Lundquist going to tap that huge, massive lands. Going to draw another Supreme Verdict, Dimir Charm here. See what Modi's picking.
Seems like, based on the way he cast it, he's Dimir charming Connor's library.
Yeah.
Probably it's lethal with the 2 Drown Yards, because it mills for 2, essentially.
So now here's a Rewind. There's a Dissipate from Ben. So Dissipate on Rewind's going to happen. And Ben's going to do a quick count. 1, 2, 3.
Doesn't even look.
Yeah, doesn't even care. How about 2 Drown Yard activations? How about your library is gone? Let's move on to the second game. Ben Lundquist up a game here against Connor Birdsall. Esper Control versus Rug Flash. First place we're going to go here is the sideboards for you, Huey. You take a look at Connor's, you see 2 Pillar Flames, 3 Dispels, 2 Glaring Spotlight, 4 Ground Seals. That's a lot of those. Garrett Primal Hunter, a Counterflux, a Static Caster, and a Peddler. What's coming in for Connor?
100% the Dispels, the Garrick, the Counterflux, and then maybe some number of Ground Seals.
Okay.
Depending on if he wants to try to board out Snapcaster Mages and blank his Snapcaster Mages or use some strategy like that. I don't think he will go with that. I think he'll just bring in those 5. The 3 Dispels, the Garrick, and the Counterflux. I think he's certainly going to take out the Peddler and the 2 Staticasters.
All right, that makes 3.
I think they're just too weak in this matchup. Maybe 2 Searing Spears also. They don't really do anything.
Yeah, they're not great. I mean, they can quote unquote clear the path, get an Augur out of the way, but I don't think you want a card in your deck that's going to kill an Augur Bolas. It doesn't really.
I agree with that.
Doesn't really seem ideal. Yeah, even leaving 2 one's a little bit dubious.
I agree.
But Staticaster and Peddler are so bad that I think those have to move first, and you're just kind of stuck with 2 spears.
The Garrick is great. Counterflux is obviously great. You can counter any Revelation at will.
Yep.
Dispels are 1 mana counter to fight over your good spells. 3 Dispels is a lot. Those are really powerful in this matchup, I think.
Yeah, you don't often see 3. You normally see 1 or 2 from your blue decks to fight other Revelation decks and push your spells through. So 3 of those, maybe Ben plays around the first one, maybe he plays around the second one, maybe gets caught off guard by the third one. Something that could happen.
Yep.
Take a look at Benny's sideboard here. A bunch of 2-ofs and 1-ofs to go along with 3 Tragic Slips. You got 1 Purify the Grave, 1 Duress, 1 Appetite for Brains, 1 Witchbane Orb, 1 Curse of Deathhold, 1 Psychic Spiral to go along with 2 Negates, 2 Rest in Peace, and 2 Evil Twin. What's Ben want to change into here moving forward? Now that he's got like a pretty good idea, that game went long enough that we think you know what that knows what Connor's playing.
Well, he could board in the Duress against a blue deck, just given that he knows he has counters. He probably expects at least 1 Counterflux, I would guess.
Okay.
Duress is a good card there. It's also really good with Snapcaster Mage if you can get a really fast Duress, Snapcaster Duress into like a Revelation for 3, reload your hand type draw. The Appetite for Brains, maybe. I mean, he knows he's up against Yevas and Huntmasters at least.
Okay.
He must expect there to be some number of Thrag Tusks. For that reason, also, he could board in the Evil Twins. Maybe.
Yeah,
it's good against Thrag Tusk. It trades with Yeva if you want. Augur of Bolas doesn't seem great in this matchup. You don't need it to block. It does find you a card, but like you said, a quarter of the time it's just 1 3 for 2. So maybe it's not worth it.
I would be interested to see if he does sideboard that out. I wouldn't be surprised because you said oftentimes it's not nearly as good as you want it to be, and he can just sideboard into more high impact cards.
Yeah, well the thing is, if you take out all your Augurs, you probably don't want Restoration Angels.
Okay.
That like have no other effect. I mean, they're okay with Snapcaster Mage late game, but if you're boarding out, you could maybe board out 2 Augurs and still leave 2 and 2, and then just draw one of your 2 Augurs and have your Restoration Angels. But I don't think you want to go to 0 Augurs and leave in your Restoration Angels.
Well, we'll see how Ben does the side-to-side board as Game 2 is underway here. See Connor with a couple lands, Ben the same. Ben with an ultimate price that he does pull forward along with a Dissipate in his hand as well, and plenty of lands. As Connor's going to play a Cavern of Souls. We'll see what that's going to name yet again here, as that is one of, as we said earlier, the big land that he could play. As Ben's just going to play here a Water Grave and pass the turn back. Wolfir Avenger is going to pay the price.
Yeah. That's important. That was really big. Of course, you know, Ben has 3 2-mana removal spells and some Syncopates. They can deal with it there, but that's a tough card in this matchup, I think. Looks like Connor stalled on land with the main phase Think Twice. Doesn't lay a 3rd land. Presumably he'll main phase Think Twice again here if he doesn't draw one, which he does. Seems like Connor has had a little unfortunate, like stumbled a little bit here in these first 2 games. Certainly not, you know, back-breaking, game-ending mana screws or anything like that, but
you are going to see an Augur Bolus here for Ben, so maybe he didn't leave in the full form, maybe just a couple of them. There's an Azorius Charm and a Sphinx's Revelation. So Ben's Augur Boluses are very good.
Yeah,
it really must be nice.
Yeah, 2-mana tutor for Sphinx's Revelation, get a 1/3.
Yeah. Not the worst card in the world.
Yeah.
So you're going to see a Wolfir Avenger here from Connor through the Cavern of Souls. Cavern naming Wolf for you guys wondering at home. There's a Sulphur Falls. And so here comes the Wolfman. In for 3. You see Ben thumbing through his hand. You see an Azorius Charm over there, but he's perfectly fine taking the damage, getting further set up. Does have a Dissipate to represent right now as well. He's going to tap those 2 lands, draws an Oblivion Ring. That's a nice, clean answer to that card.
Perfect mana. Can just leave up Dissipate.
Oblivion Ring versus Detention Sphere is something that's a little bit interesting in Ben's deck. It's a deck that can very easily cast Detention Sphere, and he's opting not to. Is there a particular reason for that, maybe?
Well, the only thing I could really think of is that he wants to either Oblivion Ring Restoration Angels and not hit his own, or he wants to be able to play Jace, get it Detention Sphered by another control deck, and then go on to Oblivion Ring the Detention Sphere and get his Jace back.
Okay.
Which is probably more likely than for Restoration Angels.
Gotcha. So we see another Wolfir Avenger here from Connor. Going to resolve again because of the Cavern. And the Wolfir Avenger is a card that Ben can have a little bit of trouble with. As you guys do see it on the screen, because of regeneration of your Supreme Verdict. There are no Terminuses looming in Ben's deck. So he does have to get a little creative with maybe a little Azorius Charm plus a mill, some other stuff like that. Certainly can deal with it, but they're annoying.
As long as Connor keeps the Think Twice in his graveyard, it's tough to get the Azorius Charm mill going, like we saw last game. But I bet he wishes right now that Oblivion Ring was a Detention Sphere.
yeah. We're going to see a Sphinx's Revelation here for Ben. It looks like it's going to be a Syncopate for 1. It is. That's going to get exiled. No Snapcaster Mage shenanigans with that either. So let's see what Ben can do here. You see him, he's going to tap 3 mana, Oblivion Ring. Why can't you be Detention Sphere, Ben's thinking.
Yeah, I think Ben has to do this here. I think he wanted to keep leaving his mana up to fight over the big threats Connor has, but his life total is just too low, and those guys are just too powerful.
Yeah. They provide a pretty good clock, as you're going to see Ben play a Hallowed Fountain. After that, Oblivion Ring does resolve, taking care of that Avenger. Take a look at Connor's hand there. You see an Izzet Charm. You see a Snapcaster Mage as well. We'll see if he's going to play a spell in the end step or not. 3 mana. Is this another one? Okay, this is just going to be Flashback Think Twice. Okay. So he's going to draw a card. It's a Rootbound Crag. He's going to tap. He's going to draw. Another Snapcaster Mage. So the Crag's going to come into play. In the hand of 2 Snapcaster Mage, Izzet Charm and a mystery card. It's good enough for Connor to send that Wolfir Avenger in.
I think it's a Yeva, the mystery card.
That is a Yeva. That's a good mystery card.
Yeah.
So Ben's going to play an Isolated Chapel, as he is at 8 life here. And pass the turn back. So let's see what Connor's going to do here now. All right. right. He looks like he wants to pull the trigger on Yeva.
He's probably going to play a Yeva just to try to draw out a counter, since it doesn't really matter. It doesn't hurt the Wolf here.
Yep.
You know, he doesn't expose himself to Supreme Verdict because the regeneration, like we've been talking about, and he does manage to draw out the Dissipate.
So it sounds like it seems like that's, you know, it's a trade that you're not like ecstatic about, but it's something you kind of have to get that part of the game over with.
It's
right?
just fine.
Yeah.
You know, you're getting Ben to tap mana on his turn, which is what you always want against control decks, and you have pressure on the board. You also don't want something weird to happen where you don't play Yeva, and then end of turn maybe Ben's able to Revelation for 5 with the spell backup.
All right, so in for 3 we go. Azorius Charm finally from Ben. Says enough is enough. Now Connor's going to make his move here. Is he going to lead out with Snapcaster Mage?
I think he's going to cast Simic Charm and give his creature hexproof.
Ooh, that's what it's going to be.
That's a good play, I think.
Yeah. Allows him to keep up a bunch of mana to double regenerate if he needs to.
Yep, the clock stays on, even though there's no fear of, you know, not being able to recast it because of the cavern, but saves him a turn.
So Ben draws a negate for the turn. Flooding out pretty badly here, plays a Goblet Shrine, passes the turn back.
He is flooding out pretty badly, but this is a risky run when you play a deck with 27, 28 lands.
Ben's a little short, he's 26.
26?
Yeah.
That's still a lot. But, you know, when your Revelations aren't resolving and you draw 10 land, it's tough.
All right, so here comes Santa Claus. 3 more.
He takes it down to 2 in case he draws Restoration Angel.
And a hand of Snapcaster Racing Charm is a little bit scary. So let's see what Connor comes up with for this turn. You see him taking his time here. It looks like he wants to cast something on his main phase. Looks like he may want to go for a Snapcaster Mage on Simic Charm.
It's possible damage hasn't resolved and he wants to just go for lethal.
Yeah. Yeah, he's really thinking about it. He's saying, Ben, what do you have? All right, so Snapcaster Mage. Target Simic Charm. I'm gonna go for it. Simic Charm that. Ben said, I drew negate, thank God.
Yeah, I don't think Ben is thanking God for anything right now. This is a tough spot now. I mean, we're dead. Ben is dead to the Wolfear Avenger or the Snapcaster Mage.
He Yards himself looking for a Think Twice, doesn't find one. Draw a card. Supreme Verdict.
Doesn't do anything.
Nope. Wolfear Avenger can regenerate through that. Let's see what Ben's going to do. Ben is going to mill himself for 3 cards, and he's going to pack it in. So we're going to be playing a game 3 here, Huey.
Somewhat surprised he didn't just cast the Verdict.
Just maybe just try it. See if he doesn't regenerate.
Who knows?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
you never know what can happen.
In that spot, I mean, if it was a card, you know, if it was some card that there's no chance Connor knew Ben had in his sideboard, keep it. Keep it for the 3rd game. Okay. Give him the benefit of the doubt. But what do you have to lose? Supreme Verdict, regenerate, okay, you win, go on to the next game. Maybe he forgets. Maybe he just has a momentary lapse and just, who knows?
You gotta give your opponent the opportunity to make a mistake.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a 1%er or whatever.
Right.
But
I mean, if it were me and I was playing against, you know, John Finkel, I would still try it.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm not. It's no disrespect to Connor or anybody else. That's your only chance to win at that point. So you got to go for it.
I can't disagree with you. You never know what can happen. Player in a feature match could be a little bit nervous. Maybe just misses something he would not typically miss.
Maybe it's dark.
Yeah.
He forgets.
Yeah, the lighting over there is really poor.
Yep.
Doesn't see that he has forests.
Yep.
We're moving on to a game 3 here between Lundquist and Birdsall. See if Connor can actually hit his land drops on time. You saw what the Rug Flash deck is trying to do a little bit better there. Wolfear Avenger is an interestingly placed card in this format right now because if he is able to untap with it, maybe dodge a Devour Flesh, it's really hard for people to get off the table. And you see a lot of people are going towards building their decks to make Supreme Verdict worse and worse as the format goes on. And Wolfear Avenger is kind of the hallmark of making Supreme Verdict a pretty bad card.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be really hard for Ben to beat a draw with Cavern of Souls and multiple Avengers. I think it's safe to say.
If you guys are just tuning in with us right now, we're in round 9 of 10 of our Standard Open. Just a couple more rounds to go today. Cedric Phillips and guest host, as Patrick Sullivan is on break, William Huey Jensen. You guys can interact with us on Twitter at SCG Live, hashtag SCGMKE. We do appreciate all you guys watching at home, enjoying the fun, as we do have 2 players here that are basically playing for a top 8 berth. There's a good chance that either one of these players will be able to draw, next round. Not a guarantee, of course, but this is one step closer to top 8 for whoever does win this match. As we do see Ben Lundquist playing Expert Control against Connor Birdsall playing the Rug Flash deck that Jeff Hooglin has popularized and written an article about on StarCityGames.com last week. Also, there's a deck tech on him as well, so if you guys are looking for more information about that deck, just browse the interwebs. Lord Google is your friend, we promise.
Do you think Ben would consider boarding in Evil Twin just to name Avenger and just trade 2 mana to make him regenerate every turn?
Okay, so activate the ability to make him regenerate?
Yeah. And wow. You can always activate it on Connor's turn, yep. So it's sort of like mana parity. Doesn't take damage from it.
That's an obscure line.
In fact, you know what Ben can do even? Connor attacks with Wolfir Avenger, okay. Ben blocks with Evil Twin. Okay, I'm ready for damage. Oh, I'll regenerate. I'll shoot it. I'll regenerate again. So he can make him regenerate twice to his once. Or 0 times if Connor chooses not to attack.
I actually kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of an obscure line with Evil Twin and what it can actually do in this matchup. It has the ability to trade with Yevas. Has the ability to make a Wolfir Avenger a lot worse, given that we've seen these 2 games. Ben has plenty of mana to be able to do a play like that. I'm taking a look at the other threats here. Snapcaster Mage. There's a little bit of value there to cloning that. Yeah. Maybe the Silverheart, maybe the Prime Speaker, Legend Rule that. Thractus, copy that. Actually, most
it's not that bad if you Legend Rule the Prime Speaker with a Snapcaster out, you still get 3 cards, right?
Yeah, you do.
So that's not that bad.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the big question is, what does Ben have to sideboard out to fit that card in? Again, the creatures aren't great for Ben. A lot of his spells are really good. The counter magic is, I think, better than it's shown in these matchups, just because Connor has drawn that 1 Cavern of Souls a lot. But I mean, the Cavern of Souls is in his deck for a reason. And I think he has it again. I see Ben cast, I think, twice here and pass the turn back.
Main phase doesn't want to get it syncopated.
Yeah, no interest in that. You're going to see a Steam Vent's best turn back. And Connor does have that Cavern of Souls again.
He probably doesn't have a green mana if he's played 2 Steam Vents.
Yeah.
Unless his green mana is like a Hinterland Harbor and he only has 1 or something.
See, Ben's going to play Glacial Fortress.
He's going to be content probably just to cast another thing twice.
Defy Drawing Yard and Goblet Shrine in this hand as well, so lands are not going to be a problem here. There's your Hinterland Harbor. Good eye, Sniper. So here's your Think Twice. Good to go. And for Ben, you got to be a little bit happy too, because you don't have to worry about a turn 3 Wolfir Avenger. You don't have to worry about that annoyance just yet. Connor going to draw a card. Cavern Souls, which we'll figure out what that is naming in just a moment for you guys. He's just going to pass the turn back.
Let's suppose you were to ask Ben after the match how many caverns his opponent was playing. What do you think he would guess?
2, 3, 4? Some number that's not 1.
So Cavern is on Elf. Which might give away the fact Yeva's coming down at the end of turn.
And there is your Yeva. You see Garrick, Primal Hunter in Connor's hand right now as well, so here comes Yeva. There's an Azorius Charm, saying that's got to go.
So I really like this play here. It's sort of like, even though we have a Supreme Verdict and an Oblivion Ring that can deal with Yeva, this sort of forces Connor's hand because of the Drown Yard, because the Yeva's gone if the Azorius Charm resolves. And I think you would love to trade Azorius Charm for any kind of counters in this situation.
So now here's a Dispel that took care of the first Azorius Charm, excuse me. So here's a second Azorius Charm from Ben saying, I want to put that thing on top and mill that thing. And now Snapcaster Mage on Dispel. I think Ben has to be thrilled with this.
Yeah, it's great. Now he can untap, he can Supreme Verdict, get really good value.
Yep. You see him on tap really, really fast. Time of the essence a little bit here. You see he's going to tap 3, he's going to tap 4. The Verdict is in. Those creatures have to leave. Ben going to play a Godless Shrine here. Probably tap. Yeah, just pass the turn back. So pretty good exchange there for Ben.
So we see Rewind, Huntmaster,
Huntmaster to restart things there for Connor. So getting back on the board, getting a board presence out there, going to start forcing Ben's hand as Ben's going to draw another Supreme Verdict.
That's a good draw.
Yep. And he does have the necessary mana now to be able to Verdict. And does he have enough to play Dissipate as well?
I believe that's a Drowned Catacomb.
Yeah.
So I think he does, yes.
Yeah, a little bit of glare there on our table. We apologize for that for you guys at home, but he does have enough to Dissipate now with a Drowned Catacomb, a Glacial Fortress, and a Nefaya Drown Yard. How about a Huntmaster of the Fells? Again, that cavern naming Elf. How about a Dissipate? That's removed from game.
That's a close decision there, I think.
Just because of the Oblivion Ring?
Because of the Oblivion Ring, you can Oblivion Ring the Huntmaster, and then you can even Angel the Wolf if you want. And it was his last counter at the time.
Okay.
So if Connor were to follow up, if you drew a land and Connor followed up with the real Haymaker, I'm the type of guy who, like when I'm playing a deck like this, I hate to cast my last counter spell. Like if I'm not losing to that card.
Yeah. You just want to hold steady.
Yeah.
You see, Ben's going to play Restoration Angel. That's going to get caught with a Rewind, but Ben has a Syncopate. Ben going to untap, very quickly draw. In comes Restoration Angel, going to knock Connor down to 19. Ben with a Glacial Fortress and an Oblivion Ring, so now just Oblivion Ring. So yeah, as you said, that not having it Dissipate, it's a little scary. Something bad can happen here as you see it Sulfur Falls. Lucky for Ben, Connor's a little ways away from that Garrett Primal Hunter.
He's a long ways away. Yeah, that's sort of another case where I'm not sure if I would have cared enough about having a Restoration Angel in play to spend my last counter spell.
So you're going to see Ben flash back and think twice. Island is the draw. Nefaya Drown Yard's going to get activated here. Connor going to turn over a Huntmaster that fills a Stomping Ground and a Mystery card. Ben draws an Augur of Bolas.
So here, if I were Ben, I would Demonic Tutor with my Augur for Sphinx's Revelation.
Let's see if Ben agrees with you. Here's an Augur. Is there an Augur? Not yet. All right, there's an Augur. Is this worth countering? It's a big question for Connor. You see the Rewind in his hand. He also has a Snapcaster Mage, too. He's got a lot of reactive cards in his hand right now. Augur. Duress is the name of the day.
Duress.
It's not bad.
It's not bad. I assume it's just going to get rewound because that's Connor's best card here, so there's no point in letting him see your hand.
Good exchange for both players.
Yeah.
Connor draws.
Is that a Prime Speaker?
Yep.
Prime Speaker's a Merfolk Wizard.
It is.
So the Cavern on Elf isn't going to help with that one.
Not quite. And those Simic cards all have ridiculous creature types that don't overlap, which I think is awesome. Ben going to Drown Yard here again. Ben, it's starting to attack Connor in two different ways. Can actually get into his life total as he draws a Watery Grave. We're a little bit hesitant with that Augur of Bolas. And understandably so, with Yeva and Wolffair Avenger out there. Can't cast the can't cast the Avenger though right now.
No.
Connor draws a card.
Searing Spear maybe? It looked red.
Could also be an Is It Charm. Does look red though. Take a look down the deck list. Looked like it was a Searing Spear, yeah. Pass the turn back again. Mill somebody. Gonna mill you. Counterflux among them. Dangerous to mill this deck because they have Snapcaster Mage, but Connor's so bottlenecked on mana that can't really he can't really punish Ben.
That and Ben is winning on two fronts right now.
Yeah.
So if Connor draws a way to start dealing with Restoration Angel, Ben can just let it be and he doesn't have to worry about it. Whereas, if he puts all his eggs in one basket by not milling, then it's probably going to be easier for Connor to find a way back in the game.
So Ben does just draw another land in the form of Hollow Fountain, passes the turn back. Connor's going to draw a card. Simic Charm. So for how many lands Ben is drawing, that's how many spells Connor's drawing.
Yeah, unfortunately Connor kind of wants to draw at least one green land.
Really bottlenecked. And pass the turn back. So a mill for 3 more. Rootbound Crag, Hinterland Harbor, another one. 3 more cards for Ben. As Ben is really kind of pushing the pace here because he knows that, you see that clock there without 7 minutes left. He doesn't want to get this game over because he just draw another land.
They probably have a few extra minutes.
Yeah, that's likely.
Yeah. I don't think time is going to come into play here.
Yeah.
Oh, no, the clock is accurate for this match. We've been informed.
So you're going to see it's accurate for 6. You're going to bounce this.
Wow.
All right. You don't see that often. That's really got to get Ben thinking. So make sure I'm bouncing my Restoration Angel.
Now the thing is, Ben doesn't have to do anything, right? Like, Connor's about to get milled out.
Okay.
Ben now has a Restoration Angel in his hand with an Augur in play. Connor has 5 lands. Ben can just mill, and whenever Connor casts a spell, then Ben can just play his Restoration Angel and get value from it.
Okay.
Not that, I mean, Connor has a lot of options here. Don't get me wrong, but it puts him in. It feels like Connor's in an impossible spot to me.
Kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, like here he's gonna play a Yeva he drew, and then Ben is gonna. I mean, even if he doesn't do it before blocks, Ben is gonna be able to end a turn Restoration Angel.
He's going to pull that trigger right away, just like you said.
Yep.
So you see Ben's going to separate his lands out. He's going to play Restoration Angel, blink that Augur. Take a look at 3 cards. Think twice, Devour Flesh. Snapcaster's going to take Think Twice once again.
I like that. I like that pick.
Dig through his deck a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Devour Flesh here does kill the Yeva, but I mean, in reality, we can double block Yeva here. We're not super worried about anything. And we want to be able to dig to an answer if something comes up that we just can't solve.
Stomping Ground finally for Connor. He draws a land, takes 2 life and goes down to 7. But still with only double green, so still a long ways away from that Planeswalker. As you see, Connor's going to take a look at Ben's graveyard really quick. Alright, so here comes a Brave Yeva. Let's see if Ben pulls the trigger on a double block or not. Double block really forces Connor's hand if he does choose to make the move.
Yes and no, but also Connor's at 6. Restoration Angel kills him in 2 hits.
Yep.
I don't know how many cards are in his library, but so is this a Wolfir Silverheart?
He's gonna flash this in. He is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16 cards left, Huey.
So that means Ben just needs to survive this turn and 1 more.
Yep.
But I guess Ben does have to be cognizant of the fact that Connor has Snapcaster Mages in his deck, and maybe he boarded in a Psychic Spiral. I mean, he doesn't know. Yep. We know, he doesn't know.
Yeah. So let's see what Ben's going to do about this Wolfir Silverheart. And I'm not quite sure if it's resolved yet. As you see him looking through here, it doesn't feel like it's resolved yet.
I don't think it's resolved. I think Ben is just going to drown twice. I think I agree with this play.
2 and 3. 1, 2 and 3.
Next turn he can just plan to chump, mill, untap, mill, or you can even just Oblivion Ring, mill.
Yeah. Oblivion Ring feels just a lot easier to me.
Yeah, it's cleaner.
Oof. Coming on in. All right, tough guy. Put Connor down to 3. Is it O-ring time? Looks like it is. Take care of that Silverheart, probably.
I think we want to take
yeah. Just so there's no tricks?
Yeah, so everything is more apparent. Like, if he attacks with Silverheart, you know there's a possibility of Yeva, but who cares?
Okay,
you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, so Connor draws a call. Connor draws a Syncopate. You see him taking a look at a very, very large graveyard here. See, what do I have left in my deck? What are my options? Do I have any Think Twices in my graveyard? What can I do?
I'm dead on board to Drown Yards and the Restoration Angel.
You see Ben does grab Connor's deck, says, how many cards you got left in that library? I think I got you in 2 different ways. And Connor being bottlenecked on mana so long this game, he just can't get all the cards out of his hand to be able to do what he wants to do. So here's 2 mana. Where does it begin? You just see Connor shaking his head a little bit frustrated.
Yeah.
Understandably so.
I agree with that.
So here's a Searing Spirit that's going to target that Augur Bolas.
He's definitely going to flash in Restoration Angel here.
Yeah. You see him slide his lands away in such a way that the Drown Yard can't still be active.
I think only one, though. Yeah, he's going to tap one of the Drown Yards.
So there's your Restoration Angel. In response, see if Connor's okay with this, if he does have a response to any of that.
It's interesting that in theory here, if Connor were to have like a Dissipate and Elf, he could win the game.
Yeah.
He has to like Hail Mary Syncopate for 1, hope Ben doesn't pay. And then attack and play a Snapcaster.
Alright, well that's
Nobody
gonna
goes for it. Nobody just tries it.
You like the Hail Mary play?
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You're dead. Now he's just gonna like let it resolve and concede.
Alright, so here comes Silverheart. Ben found an ultimate price off of that. Augur Bolas. Ben says, I'm going to block with this Augur Bolas. Connor says, I wish you wouldn't do that. Take the damage, pass the turn back. Think twice. Says okay, draws into a Water Grave, mill you for 3. And it looks like in just a second here, we're going to see Ben Lundquist win this match 2-1 over Connor Birdsall, because I just don't think he's going to be able to come back from this situation.
So this game gets scored as a win with damage, right?
Oddly enough, I think this win does get scored as a game of damage here, assuming that we are correct that he's going to win from this attack. There's your Snapcaster Mage. Yep, and that's it. Benny beatdowns indeed. See, he can deal damage with an Esper deck better than the rest. 2-1. Esper Control does defeat Connor Birdsall in his Rug Flash deck. A pretty good 3-game set there. Just unfortunately for Connor, all 3 games had some mana issues.
Yeah, I mean maybe that's, maybe that's a product of his deck. We see a blue-red spell, a bunch of double green. Red, green, blue, blue, green, green with the prime speaker. Then rewinds and dissipates or double blue. No Farseeks, which